Hi friends, I am Natalia with Mom's Dish. Today we are making homemade flour tortillas. They are so easy to make, just a few ingredients, and you will be a pro at tortillas. Let's make them. We are starting by combining dry ingredients together. I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour here, and then I'm adding about a teaspoon of salt. Just gonna grind that in. That sounds about right. And then we have 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Just dump this in and just combine it together. If you have a stand-up mixer, you can actually do all the steps in the mixer, but I'm just gonna do it by hand today. So I am adding 1/4 cup of oil and just gonna combine it in, slowly add it in as you're mixing things up. And you can use avocado oil or olive oil, it's really up to you, whatever you have on hand. And then we're adding 1 cup of water. I have warm water here, but you can don't use boiling water, but warm water is great, or you can use just lukewarm water. Basically warm water. Cold one works too, but I feel like warm one works better. I'm just gonna combine the ingredients together. At first, you'll see that the dough is kind of sticky, and I like to knead it by hand, or like I said, you can use a mixer to speed up the process, but it's quite easy to do it by hand, so I'm just gonna remove this hook and knead the rest of it by hand. I'm gonna just dump this out on my working surface, and I'm just gonna knead the rest of it by hand. It just would make my life easier, it will give me more room. So just continue kneading. It will be sticky at first, but like I said, it does come together and it's not gonna be as sticky anymore. And I love this dough scraper. It just kind of cleans things up and keeps it all together too for me. Super helpful. I will link to it because I use it. If you've seen our other recipes where I'm working with dough, I probably use it in every recipe. The more I knead this dough, the more it comes together, it becomes more elastic. So as you can see, at first it was so lumpy, but now it's more and more glutenized. And the more I knead it, it's just gonna be perfect. Soon it's not gonna stick to my hands. And honestly, I don't do a lot of kneading by hand. I have a KitchenAid mixer that I use all the time. It's just for the video, I wanna show the entire process by hand because it makes it more approachable for everybody. Also reminds me of my grandma's cooking because she used to knead everything by hand. So this is how the dough looks like once it's kneaded, and I like to let it rest for about 10 minutes. But see, it's not even sticking to my hands. It's like perfectly smooth. I'm just gonna pull this together and just let it rest for about 10 minutes, and then we can make our tortillas. Once the dough sits for a little bit, for about 10 or 15 minutes, we're gonna divide this into 16 pieces. This is what I do. But if you prefer your tortillas to be really tiny, you can divide it into more pieces. It's really up to you. But I am gonna do about 16 or so. So just divide it up, and then I like to make a little ball out of each one. I'm gonna flour the working surface and then roll it out. You wanna roll it out thinly. It does bounce back a little bit, so just keep that in mind. I'm keeping this wrapped so it doesn't get dry, but the tortilla, when you roll it out, you can roll it out as thin as you want to, but it will bounce back a little bit. This is one of the things that we get as a comment, that it bounces back, and that's normal for flour tortillas. We actually have a tortilla press as well. You can use that. If you want, I'll show that to you in a second. But I personally love to roll it out with a rolling pin. It just makes it easier for me. Just kind of fun. Okay, my tortilla though is pretty thinly rolled out. Like you can almost see through it. And if you overwork the dough, like I said, it will bounce back, but mine is pretty thin. So I'm gonna let this just sit here for a little bit, and I'm gonna roll out a few more, and we're gonna cook them all at the same time. One of the things that you'll see at a lot of like restaurants that make fresh tortillas, that their like working surface for flour tortillas is like crowded with flour, and you do wanna flour the working surface really well. You don't want it to stick to your rolling pin, or you don't want it to stick to your surface. So just as you roll it out, just flour it really generously and just keep rolling it out. Let's say you're rolling out these tortillas and you see the dough like bouncing back way too much. That happens when you over like stress the dough. I don't even know if this is a proper term, but you'll see it like bouncing back. What you do is you just let it rest. Give it 5 more minutes, you'll come back to it, and you'll have a much better experience. This also happens with pizza dough. Like whenever you overwork it, it just starts like bouncing back. You like stretch it out and then comes back in and becomes smaller. So that's typically what it is. Just let it rest and keep working. If you decide to use a tortilla press, this is how they would look like. So they're kind of heavy and they work really great on a corn tortillas. That's what I use them for mainly. You can line it with parchment paper, but I'm just using a generous amount of flour. I'm placing it in the center, placing this down and just pressing it down. This saves a lot of time, but honestly, it's kind of like, it's fun to roll it out. So I typically will just roll it out, but yeah, this is what you get. Pretty easy. Or you can use parchment paper to make it easier to unstick. And they're kind of small, but rolling pin works too. To cook the tortillas, all you need is a preheated pan. You don't even need to oil it, and just until it's bubbly on each side and like lightly golden, I just place it on a pan. And my tortillas are pretty thin. The edges are not perfect, and that's totally fine with me. I love a little rustic look, but if you want them to be perfectly round, you can actually make that happen. We're just flipping this over. I'm using a fork. You can use your hands if you like pull it to the edge like this and just flip it over. See those lightly brown tops? That's like perfect. And then if you're gonna cook it again, like let's say you make tortillas or whatever, you can make it even more browned. But it's pretty thin, beautiful, nice and crispy. I just love to keep them warm, so I have my pan here with a towel. It keeps them soft as well, so I'm just moving them over. They're just gonna stay like this, nice and warm until we're ready to serve them. And you just basically repeat the process until you run out of tortillas. So we're just gonna continue cooking the rest of them here. Typically, if I am making them and I am gonna serve them right away, I keep them in a towel like this, or if you have a cast iron that has a lid, that works really great. But if you choose to make them ahead of time, place them in a Ziploc bag, and they can be fresh for a few days in a room temperature, or if you choose to, keep them for a while, keep them in a Ziploc bag. I'm struggling here. But like this, place them in a Ziploc bag and refrigerate them, and they can be fresh for days. And here's a little taste test. We are gonna rip one apart. Look how thin that looks. Actually looks gorgeous. It stretches very nicely, has a good stretch. And I love how it comes out so thinly, so delicious. Every single time, they're perfect. I hope you love this recipe. We will see you next time.